Hey everybody, welcome back. Top of the morning. So much fun. Okay, so today we are going to talk about scary stuff. Spooky stories. Just a few things, quickly, in the dark, in the car, at nighttime. I'll just give a little bit of backstory on us and some things that we've dealt with and experienced in our life that kind of spurred our interest and got us into paranormal investigation, history, other things like that.
Yeah, my first paranormal experience that I remember, at least, I was very, very young, because I know my older sister was in school. I had to have been like 3 or 4.
Very little.
Yeah. I was sitting on the floor in front of the TV watching cartoons, and what at the time I thought was my mom, but like now looking back, like it so wasn't my mom. My mom had this like distinct robe that she would wear all the time. She came down the hallway and like just stood in the entryway of the hallway, which is right in front of me, and just stared at me. And so I looked at her, and like, because she was just staring at me, not saying anything, I was like, am I being too loud? Like, is the TV too loud? Because she was sleeping. So I'm kind of like, crap, am I being too loud? But then I asked, and it just kind of went like, and like still just staring. And it was like, it wasn't just like a blank stare or anything like that. It was like a, like similar to like a mom glare, but like worse. And so then I just really creeped out, and she just turned around and like walked away. And like, I mean, I guess you could kind of be like, okay, that was just your mom. Like, and like I said, like, oh, your mom thought you were being too loud, came and like glared at you, walked away. But I really don't think it was my mom. Like now, looking back at it.
Yeah.
But then something that happened later that I will tell you guys kind of furthers the theory that it wasn't my mom.
Yeah, one of the first things I remember was in the house that I grew up most of my life in. There we had kind of an old stereo system and surround system. We just used it for the TV as kind of like a sound bar, and so we didn't really use any of the other features like CDs or radio or anything. But it was during the daytime, and I went down and I was alone in the basement, and I think I was just sitting on the couch. I don't know if I was playing with something. I was pretty young, maybe like 8 or 9 years old. And all of a sudden the stereo came on, and I'd seen like TVs and other things sometimes do that, but then it changed channels and it went to the radio side, and it started playing classical music. And there was no CD in it. No, there wasn't even a remote for it, so no one was on the remote. And it just decided to turn on, change the radio off, to a different input and start playing classical music by itself. And then I freaked out and ran upstairs, and I think I told my mom, and then when I came back down, it was off. So yeah, that was kind of one of my first paranormal experiences. Mine is just some different like energy or like being creeped out by things.
We ended up building our own house, and we moved into that house when I was 7, and for as long as I could remember while living there, I hated our laundry room that was in the back of the house. And when it got dark, I like would refuse to go to the back of the house. There was always a man standing in our laundry room, like kind of like towards the wall, like not in our way or anything like that, but just standing there kind of looking out at everybody. And it would only be at nighttime. And then our bathroom was right across from that, kind of off.
Like catty corner.
Yeah. But yeah, when I'd come out of the bathroom, I would just completely avoid looking in there. And I'd even avoid like looking at the back door that was right next to the laundry room, just because it's like I felt like looking back there almost like invited it to like come out or whatever. And so it's like if you just completely ignore it, then it stays where it's at.
Like giving it attention. Or...
Yeah. So I did everything I possibly could not to pay any attention to it. And then I think we'd been there for like a year or so, and my sister got a job at the grocery store that my mom worked at. And so they were both gone, and my dad worked on cars, so he was outside working on cars. And I was in charge of watching my younger sibling, which was only like a year old. So very, very little. And but he was like taken care of and occupied, so I went into my room and was standing by my mirror. And then I looked in my mirror, and all I saw was like a pale person, which my whole family is very pale, but pale person with long dark hair like all of us had, peeking in my doorway. But then as soon as I looked, it like ducked out, and like, you know, hair flowing the way that it normally would and stuff. And I remember I just like completely froze because my mom and my sister weren't home, and then nobody else, you know, is there.
Yeah.
Definitely nobody that can peek in my door. And like, I don't know, didn't hear anybody come in, and the house is very easy to just like sweep and tell that no one's there.
Yeah.
And nobody was there. I might have mentioned it to my dad, like been like, did someone come in here or whatever? But if he's like, no, then okay. And I don't know why I was so
dismissive.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine. I'll just cry about it later.
Yeah. Well, we also, growing up, we watched a lot of really scary things, like scary movies and stuff. So I guess I passed a lot of it off, like on like, oh, you're just creeped out because of all the stuff that you watch. And you don't want to make a big deal about it because then your parents won't let you watch the creepy stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that to happen.
Another thing that reminds me of is you said that the bathroom is by the laundry room you had the issue with. In the same basement in the house I talked about earlier, there was it's a pretty big house. There were several bathrooms, and there was one on the basement level, and it was kind of off from the rest of the basement. It was down a hallway. There was one, not really a bedroom because there was no windows, but a room, and then the bathroom. And I just remember from the moment we moved in through my entire time, which was like 7 years of living there, I hated that bathroom. And I don't necessarily remember seeing like any figures, but I do remember times when the door seemed to move, or something seems to change over there, or I might hear a noise maybe. And I would try everything I could, like you said, with the laundry room, not to look down there ever. Like the only time I ever went down there is if I was with people, like there was a purpose, and I was with like my parents or my grandparents or whoever, or a bunch of friends for some reason. Like hide and go seek, that room was off limits. I would not go hide there.
Would you go find people if they hid in there?
Probably not. So you're on your own.
Unless you had a big group to follow you.
Yeah, maybe a big group around, maybe. But yeah, and that was, I mean, daytime or nighttime, especially nighttime. If it was nighttime, I would not even ever cross the hallway. I would stop before the hallway. So there was not even a chance of a peripheral down there. Daytime I would, because there was another like play area as a kid and stuff across the hallway. But no, nighttime I never even looked down there. I had a family member one time that was in there, and I think me and my cousin might have been on the basement level at this point. Like I said, it was a pretty big house, so we were nowhere near the hallway or the door or the bathroom, but they were using the restroom down there, and the door swung open, and nobody was around. And they thought it was one of us at first, and so they called out, and we were like, "What?" Like yelling back. And you could tell we were nowhere close to them.
It's crazy how we can just feel that type of thing, and then we like make up random rules, like, oh, you can't cross the hallway, you can't look at it, you can't,
right?
You know, and it's not really something that you bring up to people. You just kind of deal with it.
Yeah, you just don't do it.
Yeah. And it's weird that, like, neither one of us were like, Mom,
no,
this creeps me out, fix it. But, you know, like, let's try to find something to make it less creepy. We're both just like, that's creepy. We're not dealing with that.
Yep. Just ignore it. Pretend it's not there. I feel like I remember, like, wanting to bring it up at times, but I was almost more worried about, like, agitating the darkness, if you will. Like,
well, I know that. So, okay, so we were listening to like Will Smith songs, and you know that Nightmare on My Street, that one, but how he does the Freddy voice in it like freaked me out at this age, like 7 or whatever. But it was like the first time that we'd ever heard it. My mom was showing us, and every time I did the voice, I like panicked. And then I think right after, or while they were listening to the songs, they're like, okay, go let the dogs out. And I was like, no. It was like, so, I was so like, no, that eventually they're like, what's wrong? And it's like I had a small window to tell them, like, why. But then they moved on pretty quickly, you know, like, what's wrong? But then after like a second, one goes to let the dogs out, the other one's like changing the music. So then I like feel like the moment passed. I couldn't say anything. Something I did eventually say something about, though. When we moved in, we got to pick like everything about our bedrooms, like the paint colors and the floors and everything. And our beds had wheels on them. That way it was easier to like move around if we wanted to rearrange. So both me and my sister had wheels on our beds. And I eventually I had quite a few experiences that it like I can't even really put them into stories, just like shadow people or like feelings or whatever. So I was at this point I'm pretty used to like just paranormal shit being present. It started, I was in bed and it just very slowly started moving. The foot of the bed started moving and like just gliding across the room. So then I'd get up and move it back, and it did it like once or twice and then stopped. And then a few nights go by and it does it again, and I'm getting a little bit annoyed. But then I think I put something like next to one of the wheels, like a shirt or something, like to try to block it to where it can't roll. So then it tried, and then
someone's laughing somewhere.
But so it tried to roll, and it couldn't. And it also in my head at this point, I think, like, the house isn't level or something. I mean, it's really annoying that your bed can just, like, glide across the floor. Only at nighttime, and only when I'm in it, by the way.
I don't see people, but I hear people.
There they are.
Okay, anyways. But so I put the shirt there, and it started to go, and then couldn't. The shirt stopped it. And so then I was like, yay, I felt like oh, I figured out the problem. And then it starts just going like, and I was, stop. And it stopped. And I'm like, whoa. Stop. And then it stopped. And I did this like for like 4 or 5 minutes of it just going until I said stop. And then finally I think I got up and put more clothes around like each wheel. And the next day, or it kind of became a habit or a pattern to just stuff clothes there. And then eventually I got tired of doing that. And so I went to my dad and I was like, I want you to take the wheels off my bed. And they're like, why? And I'm like, it keeps rolling across the floor. So then they're like, oh, I'm going to investigate a little bit. Like, that shouldn't be happening. Is the floor sinking? Like, my dad's concerned because he built it. He doesn't want anything to be wrong with the house. And my sister's isn't doing that at all. And we didn't have, like, regular floor. It was just wood. We had just, like, and not, like, house wood floors. We had literally, like...
Oh, like plywood?
Yeah, plywood. But yeah, we had plywood for our floors. So it was a little more bumpy and rough and harder to glide across, too.
Yeah. Well, the other big thing I can remember, I do want to say, like, as far as, like, the bathroom and the stereo thing and all that in the basement, I generally was not scared or creeped out by any of our house. I wasn't creeped out by any of the floors, wasn't creeped out by the basement, anywhere except for that bathroom. So it wasn't just like I was creeped out all the time or just at night or just like some kids are just scared of basements. So, but ours was completely finished. We had like windows all over it. It was a walkout. So during the daytime, there's lots of light. It's not much different than just a regular, ground floor of your house or whatever. But one of the only apparitions I remember, I was talking with some family members, 2 others that are pretty sensitive, and we weren't talking about paranormal or anything creepy, just random like chit chat. We're all standing there, then all of a sudden we all 3 stopped talking and looked to our left, or well, not always to the left, but look in the same direction. And we watch a cat. We were on the 2nd story. Watch a cat walk across the doorway. And then we looked back, and almost in unison, we're like, did you see that? Because we did not have any cats. I don't think we had any animals at this point. Maybe a dog, but we had never had cats. And most of our neighbors didn't even have cats, and definitely didn't have one that looked like this one. And it was in our upstairs, just walking along.
And it's not like later you found a cat or
Yeah,
anything.
never found a cat. No one else saw it, just us 3. So, yeah, it wasn't scary. It was just
weird.
Yeah, it was just a WTF moment. Because it just made 0 sense and it seemed really random as well.
I think the last one that we have is the one that I mentioned earlier. This is probably the scariest, I think, encounter that I have ever had. Still. Either that or I'm just used to it. But I mean, even thinking about it and talking about it, like, creeps me out so bad. Still. Still pretty young. Like, somewhere between 8 and 10. So, the way that my bed was, it was in the corner. And, my closet is in, like, the opposite corner. And across from my closet is my door. And then from my doorway, you could see, like, pretty much all the kitchen. But so I randomly woke up and sat straight up. And then I'm, like, confused. Because I'm like, I wasn't having a bad dream. I had no idea why I just woke up and sat straight up. So I'm just kind of, like, looking around my room, like, what the heck? You know when, like, something stands there, but you don't notice it until it moves?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Something was standing by my closet, and I didn't notice it till it moved, and it was my mom in her robe. She started walking, and then I was like, oh, Mom? I thought maybe she came in to check on me. I was like, maybe I was having a bad dream. It was like so bad that she heard and came to make sure I was okay.
Yeah.
So I said, Mom. She didn't respond and just walked out, and she didn't shut my door, which was like a red flag. So then I kind of like leaned forward and was like, Mom. And she walked around our kitchen table and over to the corner of the kitchen, and then just turned around and stared at me, like the same way that she did in the first story that I told. And I'm older now, and so I'm a little more aware of how freaking weird this is. And so I'm like, what are you doing? And she just like stares. I'm like, Mom. Then I'm like, are you sleepwalking? Like what's happening? But and I'm like, what are you doing? And then I kind of wanted to get up and shut my door, but I was kind of too scared.
Yeah.
I was like, if I get up and shut my door, is she gonna like charge at me? Like,
Yeah.
You know? Because I was like pretty sure that this wasn't my mom at this point. And
it's hard to say. I probably would have like started yelling.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe charged at it. Like, not that I could like take it, but like make a commotion and like get other people on it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I wanted to get up and shut the door, but I was too scared. So I just kind of laid down. But when I laid down, I couldn't see out there anymore. So then that creeped me out even more. And so then I sat back up and still just staring directly at me. And I was like, can you quit? What are you doing? Like, I'm still like so confused. Like, is this my mom? I'm pretty sure it's not my mom. But is it my mom? Type thing. And finally I just got annoyed and was like, I don't know how I got like the courage to just lay down and go to sleep. Because I don't think today I could do that.
No way.
There's no way I would do that.
I couldn't have done it with the bed moving.
Mm.
Nah. That happened more than once, and I would have freaked out.
Mm.
The first time I would have like discounted it, like, oh, I shifted or something.
Right.
But
I was a brave little kid.
yeah, even if I was brave with the sliding, I maybe could discount it. But as soon as it would have started like going back and forth, nope.
Yeah. Been
out of there.
Yeah, I was a brave kid because if any of this happened to me today, I'd probably cry.
Yeah.
But I think I was purposely like ignorant. You know, it was just like, oh, it's
whatever.
It's whatever, yeah. But yeah, so I went to sleep, and then the next day when I saw my mom, I was like, what were you doing? Like, why were you staring at me? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, you were in my room, then you went to the kitchen and stared at me. And she's like, I wasn't in your room. Like, but then I look at my dad, and he backed her up that she wasn't up and moving at any point. And so...
And she's not known to be a sleepwalker either.
Yeah. Yeah, she had never sleptwalked or anything. Yeah. And, like, I mean, it looked like my mom, but, like, looking back, it's like, it looked like my mom, but then it had, like, kind of, like, almost, like, saggy lines throughout its face, which they weren't, like, super noticeable. So it's not like you could just, like, glance and be like, ew. Or anything. It's like because we made eye contact and like maintained eye contact for so long. That's kind of when I noticed the like droopy face, and that's kind of when I realized like, oh, that's not my mom. I've seen plenty of apparitions.
Yeah. Well, me too now.
Yeah.
Being older and as an adult especially, I've seen a lot. Today we're just talking about children. Just being kids.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have...
Doesn't come close to covering everything.
Yeah, we'll have a lot more stories for you, but just figured we'd keep it in childhood for now, and then maybe move on to like teenage, young adult years, and just keep moving on. But yeah, we also have an exciting announcement.
Oh.
Yeah. We booked the Sally House
in Atchison, Kansas. It is regarded by a lot of people as one of the scariest places in America. Or most haunted places, I should say.
Yeah. We are going in July. And I think we'll be posting by the end of July. We'll be posting that video. We're very excited.
And nervous.
And nervous. Kind of already, this might sound like completely bizarre, but kind of already having experiences, even though we're not even there yet.
Yeah, like as soon as we booked it, it was like...
As soon as and we're taking my dad again on this adventure. And
we're too scared.
Yeah, we're too scared to go by ourselves.
Couldn't do just us, the third person.
But I think since we booked it, all three of us, activity...
It spiked.
Has spiked for all three of us. My dad actually sent me a video, maybe I'll show it, of his cup just kind of wiggling around. And he said that it happened to bottles even before the video was taken. I even was like, oh, is it wind? But the cup moves like this direction and then stops and moves this direction.
Yeah.
So it's not. And you see him pick it up and like wiggle it and.
Yeah, like balance it out, set it back down again.
Yeah.
It just moves like randomly. And it's styrofoam, so some cups and bottles, like the condensation comes out and it can slide across tables. I've seen that, but this one there wasn't.
He lives in my old trailer. And we have lots of stories about when I lived in that trailer. So, very active.
Yeah.
A very active spot. But it's
which is also right by the house that you grew up in.
Yes.
That was very active.
Yes, it's right by the house.
Same property.
Yeah. The stories that I just told all happened in the house right next to it.
That's where I had my first attack.
Yeah.
Times.
Yeah. Stories to come later, but yeah, we've both been like physically attacked in that house.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
It was in the daytime too.
Mine was too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just tease you with that. But yeah, so look forward to Sally House video. We'll probably post one more story time video before the Sally House one or two. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Like and subscribe.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.